Hello and welcome to the Learning Love Podcast. I'm Dr. Mark A. Hicks, author of the book Learning Love. It is possible to build the healthy, happy, thriving relationships you have always wanted. So let's spend some time learning love. Love is the answer. Now all we have to do is explore all the questions. And today's question is, what do we do when we get triggered? There are going to be things in life that are going to set you off. There are going to be things in life that get you really upset. That's normal. Life is not always easy. People are not always easy to deal with. There are going to be circumstances in life that are going to trigger you. But if we handle this the wrong way, we can really do some damage to our relationships. This is a critical point. When we get triggered, we need to have a strategy of what we do in order to respond well and with wisdom in order to keep our relationships healthy. It's not a problem to be triggered. That's not the problem. That's natural. That is a natural human instinct. When we feel something is wrong, we get triggered. That's what happens. It's not a problem, and it is not some weakness. It is not something we need to control. It just is part of our natural human instinct. When something offends us, when something is a danger, when something is wrong, when something is horrible happening that really upsets us, we are going to be triggered. And so that's not the problem. That's natural. What we are responsible for is how we respond to it. The triggering, we are not responsible for. That's just going to happen. Basic human instinct. How we respond is our responsibility. That's where we need to be wise. That's where we need to be responsible and make some good decisions. And that takes strategy. That's what we're going to talk about today. So, first of all, what does it mean to be triggered? As I said, it's a natural human instinct. When something happens that upsets us, something happens that offends us, we're going to be triggered. What that really means is it's that classic fight or flight response, fight, flight, or freeze response that our nervous system is engaged. Now, our minds, our brains are always looking for this. We have a natural human instinct to look out for things that are going to harm us, either physically or emotionally. That goes back to the very beginning of humanity. Back in the olden days when people had to worry about saber-toothed tigers jumping out of the trees to attack them. So they always had to have this instinct. The brain is always engaged in looking for things that will harm us. Even if we're just relaxing, even if we're not really thinking about it, if we hear something, if we're walking through the woods and we're having a great day and we feel good, but we hear something that we think could be a bear in those woods, we're immediately going to react. Our brains have that instinct to be on the lookout, whether we're paying attention or not, whether we're thinking about it or not, being on the lookout for things that will harm us. Now, most of us in the modern world are not going to be attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. Probably not going to be in a place that we're going to be attacked by bears. It happens, so be careful. But in most cases, that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about are emotional harm. We get triggered because we've been through trauma. And when something happens that reminds us of that trauma, it engages our nervous system because we want to protect ourselves. If we've been hurt before and we feel a similar situation, if someone in the past has harmed us and someone that we're around reminds us of that, they act in a similar fashion. If we were in a violent relationship in the past, we may be triggered when someone starts yelling. Not that they're attacking us, not that they're being violent towards us, but if they're getting loud because they're upset, it may trigger our nervous system because we remember that when someone got loud before, they were violent with us. And so there's a post-traumatic stress kind of reaction that we have our nervous system on full alert because we've been reminded of that trauma, and our brains are saying, watch out, this is very similar. We got to protect ourselves. There are situations in society that we feel very deeply about. There are political causes we feel very deeply about. There are religious beliefs that we feel very deeply about. And when someone offends those, when someone attacks those, our emotions get going because the brain doesn't make a big distinction between a physical attack and an emotional one. The same area of the brain reacts, whether it is a physical attack or an emotional one. So if someone punches you in the face, there's a certain area of the brain that's going to react to that. But if someone says something horrible about a family member or attacks your belief system, a deeply held belief system like your religion or your political beliefs, that's going to feel like a physical attack in the brain. Okay? We know the difference logically. We can see the difference. We feel the difference. But in our basic instincts in the brain doesn't make a huge distinction. The same area of the brain that defends us against physical attack also offends us against emotional attack. That area of the brain is going to fire off either way, doesn't care which type of attack it is, emotional or physical. And so our system is going to be on high alert, and we're going to want to react. We react either by fighting, by fleeing, or freezing. We fight, flight, or freeze. That's just our basic human instincts of what we do when we are triggered. And again, nothing wrong with that. That's just what happens when we get triggered. Those instincts are going to kick in, and we're going to feel the need to fight or flight or freeze. That's just what we do. Now, again, we're not responsible for that, but we are responsible for what we do next. How are we going to react to that feeling? We have to make responsible, wise choices at this point, or we can really mess things up. And so we need to make good decisions. Now, let's understand, first of all, there's going to be very few circumstances in life where you have to react immediately to this. That's important to understand. When we are triggered, there are very few circumstances where we need an immediate, instinctive reaction. Very few. There are some, okay? If you are awakened in the middle of the night because someone has broken into your house and they have a weapon and they are about to do you harm, it's not time to think through things. It's time to either run if you can or to fight with everything you're worth. If you're out on the street and someone tries to nab your child, this is not time to think through and ponder your reaction. It is time to fight with everything you have in you. Those are very few circumstances, okay? It happens, sadly. It's unfortunate. And the reason we have this instinct in us is because of those circumstances. Because we do live in a world that there are some bad people, and there are people that will do harm. And so we have this instinct to react immediately when there is that kind of danger. That doesn't happen often. So let's understand that. Let's reserve our immediate instinctive reaction to only the most extreme of circumstances. When there is actual imminent physical harm to us or someone we love or the people around us, that there is actual physical danger, we have that ability to react instinctively and to fight with everything we have, or to run as fast as we can. That's a good instinct to have when there is real physical danger. But when there's not, if we're not in imminent danger, then take a minute. We don't have to respond immediately. When we feel those things and we can see immediately, this is not imminent danger. No one is physically attacking me or my child or a loved one or someone around me I need to defend. There is no physical danger here. Let's remind ourselves, I'm safe. I'm uncomfortable, I'm upset, but I'm safe. Go to that place where we immediately recognize this is not a danger. This is something that's upsetting. This is not an immediate physical harm situation. This is a situation that's really made me mad. And when we have those situations, we can take a minute. In fact, we can take several of them. We can take a few minutes and figure out how we want to react. So the smart thing to do when you get triggered, react in those obvious situations that we have to react, but those are very few. They are only reserved for imminent physical danger of us or people around us that we need to defend. Other than that, take a minute. Decide how you're going to react, because being triggered is not your responsibility. How you respond to it is. So take a minute and decide how you're going to respond. One of the best things you can do at this point is take a deep breath, and you can even say to someone who's attacking you, hurting you emotionally. Again, this is not about physical attack. This is about someone who has triggered you with their words, with some action they've taken that is not physical harm. You can actually say, this is really upsetting me, so I'm going to take a minute. I'll be back. I'm going to go walk around for a second, and then I'll figure out how I'm going to respond to this. That's fine. That's a very strong statement. It lets people know this is not okay. I'm going to react to this, but I'm going to do it responsibly and with wisdom. I'm going to be a decent person in this. I'm going to be a good person and do the right thing for myself here. I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to take a walk. I'll take a deep breath. I'll come back, and then I'm going to respond in the way that I choose to respond, not out of just pure instinct. You can say that out loud. This is upsetting me. This is not cool with me. This is very offensive to me. So I'm going to take a minute to decide how I'm going to respond and then walk away. You get to do that. You have that right. There is nothing preventing you from that unless there is actual physical danger. Take the minute, take 10 minutes, take 15 minutes, and decide, how am I going to respond? A few deep breaths, and then decide, what do I want to do in this situation? What do I want to do to deal with this in a healthy way for me? How do I deal with this situation where I can be a person of wisdom and be responsible, but also address this situation, to not run away from it, not pick a fight, but deal with the situation. We have the right to take the time to think through it, pause, take a breath, take a few deep breaths, and you'd be surprised how much deep breathing helps. I know that may sound silly to some of you, that you think, well, what's breathing going to do? Try it. You'll see. Take some deep breaths way into your belly, just as deep as you can take them. Hold it for a second and let it out really slowly. And do that for a minute or two. You'd be surprised how much that helps. Take that time, do some deep breathing. Now, let me say a word to those that really do have a trauma background, post-traumatic stress situation. All right. In that situation, taking a minute, taking a few deep breaths is probably not going to be enough. If you are really responding to a trauma, if you've got PTSD type of situation, again, this is not your responsibility that you've been triggered. It's your responsibility on how you react to it, how you respond to it. And so it's not going to be enough, most likely, if you are feeling that sense of panic. Okay, you're right on the edge of that sense of panic, that feeling of overwhelm. There's a trick to this that can help you. It's called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. Okay, take a minute or a few minutes, get by yourself. Again, just dismiss yourself from the situation. I'm really upset here. I'm going to take a minute. I'll be back. Get by yourself and look for 5 things that you see. Just identify them in your mind, even say them out loud. Look for 5 things. Right now, as I sit here, I can see the camera I'm talking into. I can see a light behind that camera that's shining on me. I can look around my office and I can identify 5 things that I can see. And then go to 4 things that you can touch. In my office here, I'm sitting at a desk. I can touch my desk. I have my phone next to me. I have a copy of my book that I have next to me. I have things around me I can touch. I can lay my hands on. What can you touch? Particularly if you can get outside to touch trees and things like that, that can be really helpful. Find 4 things you can touch. Find 3 things that you can hear. Take a minute, really listen. What are you hearing? Maybe you hear birds chirping outside. Maybe you hear people talking in the office next door. Maybe you hear someone's phone ringing. Listen, find 3 things that you can hear. Find 2 things that you can taste. What's the taste in your mouth right now? Maybe you had a piece of candy recently. You still have the taste of that. Maybe you just taste just nothing, just the taste of your mouth. It means nothing. Maybe you could take a sip of water or a sip of coffee and really take time to notice, how does that taste? Just notice the taste of it. And then identify 1 thing that you can smell. Maybe it's just the open air. Maybe it's the natural indoor air of your office. Maybe someone has cooked lunch recently and you can smell the aroma of that food that's been cooked. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Name something you can smell. The reason we do that is because when you are triggered, all your senses are on high alert. All your senses are on high alert. Again, it goes back to those olden days where we were looking out for the saber-toothed tiger. And so we need to either fight or we need to flee. And all our senses kick in order to do that. We got to see, we got to hear, we got to know where the danger is coming from. And so our senses, all of them, are on high alert. And that kind of creates that sense of panic when there's not really anything to fight, when we're trying to calm down, when we don't want to run away, when there's not imminent danger. We just need to deal with the situation. Those heightened senses can lead to that sense of panic, that sense of overwhelm, if we've come from a trauma type background, if we have post-traumatic stress. Those senses on high alert are hard to handle. So this gives them a task. That's really all it does. It gives those senses a task to fulfill. It puts them to use. Take a few minutes and identify 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things you can taste, 1 thing you can smell. And if you, in that moment, think, I can't remember the order, it doesn't matter. Okay? Find 4 things you can hear and 3 things you can taste. It doesn't matter what order you go in. Just use your senses. Okay? Put your senses to work, because that triggering has put them in full effect, in full alert, And that can really be overwhelming. It can bring about a sense of panic if you've come from a trauma background. So use that. That can really help you to get those senses engaged so they're not just running crazy. They're not just running wild. And when I say that, it doesn't mean you're crazy. I mean, your senses are just running wild. Make sure they are put to use so that they are kind of have time to calm down. Your senses come off that high alert because they have a task to fulfill. And once you've done that, do that deep breathing and think through, I'm safe. I'm not under physical attack. No one's being violent with me. I am safe, but I'm uncomfortable. I'm upset, but I am safe. And keep yourself in that place of safety, of emotional understanding that you're safe, that you're uncomfortable when you have something to address. And then decide, how do you want to address it? How do you want to have that conversation? How do you want to deal with this? If we're good people, if we're smart people, we're wise people, and we're doing things to calm ourselves down, a lot of times we have the capability of making good decisions, of handling things in a good way. Most of us know how to have a decent conversation if we can get ourselves in a good place emotionally. We know how to address something with someone if we can get ourselves into a better emotional place. So when we've been triggered, that's the idea. If we have to react instinctively with fight or flight because there's a imminent physical attack, okay, but that usually doesn't happen. Most of the things that trigger us are more emotional. They need to be dealt with in a smart way, a wise way, responsibly, especially if we're talking about your marriage, your family, people you're very close to. Don't do damage here, all right? You want to, the same is true with coworkers and friends and people in the community and neighbors, but it's especially important if you're talking about you are being triggered by a spouse, your children, your family, your parents. Don't do damage, okay? Don't do damage to that relationship because they've made a mistake or because they've said something out of line or something that offended you. Take some time, get yourself in a better place, deal with the overwhelm, deal with the panic nature if we've been through trauma and reacting in a trauma type way. Do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, get yourself in a better place and decide, how do I want to handle this? Make good decisions to keep your relationships in a healthy place. So let me emphasize the most important thing that I've said today. You are not responsible for being triggered. You're responsible for how you respond to being triggered. Don't beat yourself up because your senses went on high alert. Don't beat yourself up because you felt that sense of trauma or felt that sense of panic welling up in you, and you felt that fight or flight or freeze response. You're not responsible for that. That is instinct that you are not going to be able to control. That is wired into the deepest part of who we are as a human. Fight or flight or freeze is just part of who we are. You're not responsible for that. So don't beat yourself up, but you are responsible for how you react. You are responsible for how you respond. And this will be critical for how you build healthy relationships, because when you get triggered, you don't want to lash out to do damage to a relationship that you care about. Take your time. Step away. You're not in physical danger. You are in a safe place. You're just uncomfortable. You are upset. You are angry, but you're not in danger. So take a breath. Do the sensory work. Calm yourself to a place that you can make a wise response. And then make a response that shows you care about that relationship. You care about that person. You're mad at them. You're angry with them. You don't appreciate what they did. But if that's a relationship that's important to you, then react in a way that says, this relationship's important to me. I need to deal with this situation. I need to deal with the mistake they made, but that person means something to me. This relationship is important. I want to keep it healthy. And so let's respond in a healthy way. If you have this kind of strategy, you're going to be triggered sometimes, but you'll know what to do when you are. And that's my thoughts today as we are working to build those healthy, happy, thriving relationships that we all want. Please go to my website, markahicks.com. You'll find a lot of good stuff there, including some easy links to order my book, Learning Love, Building a Life That Matters, and Healthy Relationships That Last. It is available wherever books are sold. I hope you'll pick up a copy. I want to thank my producer, Abby Graves of Abby Graves Production, and thank you to all of you for listening. Until next week, love well, everyone.